Do you know what the mantelpiece standard is? Have you ever heard of it? No? Well, stick around and you might just get an education.
Right then, you know what really gets my goat? It is not the heat, it is not the spicy food that leaves me reaching for a cold beer, and it is not even the fact that my Thai wife's cooking has ruined me for any other cuisine on earth. No, what truly gets under my skin is watching the slow, agonizing death of standards. When did we all collectively decide that mediocrity was acceptable? When did good enough become our national motto? I am sat here in my little corner of Isaan, surrounded by rice paddies and the occasional wandering water buffalo, and I can tell you something. The world I grew up in, the Britain of the 1950s and 60s, is disappearing faster than a cold pint on a hot day. There is a quiet, almost invisible boundary line between a society that is moving forward and one that has begun to slide gently backward. It does not announce itself with the sudden collapse of a bridge or the dramatic downfall of an empire in a single afternoon. Civilizations rarely end with a bang, you see. They erode. They chip away at the edges, one minor concession at a time, until the world we take for granted begins to feel slightly frayed, slightly worn, and gently neglected. Think back for a moment. Think about a time when walking through a public park, stepping onto a train platform, or entering a civic building carried a subtle, unspoken reassurance. The brass was polished, the floor was swept and mopped, the doors opened, the lights worked, and the space felt as though someone, somewhere, took genuine pride in keeping it that way. Now, look around the modern landscape. Go on, I dare you. We see public amenities permanently locked behind heavy chains. We see stone monuments covered in grime, streets left unswept, and basic facilities dismantled because keeping them clean is deemed too difficult or too costly. When something breaks, the response is no longer to fix it with robust engineering and care. Oh no, that would be far too sensible. Instead, it has to replace it with something cheaper, flimsier, or simply to shut it down altogether. We are told this is efficiency. We are told it's modern budgeting. Hogwash, I say. In truth, it is the language of managed decline. It is what happens when a society stops holding the line on basic standards and decides that excellence is simply too much work. Besides, here is a question I keep asking myself, and I will ask you too. When did we stop believing we deserve better? Let me tell you something that shaped my entire outlook on life. In 1966, I started full-time work as an apprentice electrician. Young lad, keen as mustard, eager to prove myself. What's more, I remember the day I started bending conduit. Now, you youngsters out there probably do not know this, but we did not have mechanical benders when I started. No fancy hydraulic machines, no preformed plastic curves, just a wooden block, a bit of muscle, and a lot of patience. I will never forget it. I had made my first bend, sweating over it for what felt like an eternity, and I turned to my electrician, old Ernie. His name was, a proper craftsman who had been doing the job since before my father was a boy. And I asked him, "Is this good enough?" I will never forget what he said. He looked at my bend, then looked me square in the eye, and he said, "Son, it is only good enough if it is good enough to hang above the mantelpiece in your mother's front room." Now, I should probably pause here and explain something. In 1966, a working class lad from a small estate did not have much to offer his mother. We did not have money for fancy presents, we did not have holidays abroad, and we certainly did not have the kind of electrical gadgets that fill every home today. However, if you could make something with your own hands, something that was beautifully crafted and built to last, that was your gift. That was your pride. Besides, my mother's front room mantelpiece was the place of honour in our house. The best of the best went there. Old Ernie was not just talking about conduit. He was telling me in his gruff, no-nonsense way that anything worth doing is worth doing properly. There is no such thing as good enough when you are building something that will outlast you. That the man who takes pride in his work leaves a legacy that speaks for itself long after he is gone. That single sentence set the standard for the rest of my life. Besides, you know what? It is a standard that has become increasingly rare in this modern world of disposable everything. In the late 20th century, some clever Scientologists popularized a concept known as the broken window theory. The premise was deceptively simple. If a single window in a building is broken and left unrepaired, people passing by will subconsciously assume that no one cares, no one is in charge, and no standards apply. Before long, more windows are smashed, litter accumulates, and the surrounding neighbourhood begins a slow, steady descent into disorder. The environment we build around us sends a constant, silent message to every person who walks through it. When an authority maintains a public space with immaculate care, it is not just sweeping dust or polishing metal. It is issuing an invitation to the community. It says, "This belongs to all of us. It is valuable. Treat it with respect." Walk through the public transit hubs of Seoul or Tokyo today, and you will see this unspoken contract in action. Spotless floors, high-tech public amenities, and dry, clean counter spaces. However, more importantly, you will see ordinary citizens who have finished drying their hands taking 3 seconds to wipe down the wash basin for the next stranger who steps up after them. That single 5-second act is not enforced by a law or a security camera. It is the natural response to an environment that demands respect because it shows respect. Now, contrast that with what happens when the standard drops, when the public facility is damp, neglected, and smelling of long-term failure. The silent message changes instantly. It says, "Nobody cares about this space, so why should you?" When we lower the baseline of our physical world, human behaviour invariably shifts down to meet it. Misuse follows neglect. Vandalism follows indifference. Besides, slowly the public learns to expect nothing, care for nothing, and demand nothing from the institutions that serve them. When maintenance falls apart, administrative leaders face a fundamental choice. They can step up, invest the necessary resources, hire dedicated staff, and enforce a high standard, or they can adapt downward. What's more, regrettably, modern institutions have become masters of adapting downward. If a public park bench is vandalised, instead of installing a stronger, better monitored bench, the council removes the bench entirely. Brilliant solution, that. No bench, no vandalism. They must pat themselves on the back for that one. If a public restroom is difficult to keep clean under heavy foot traffic, instead of staffing it with active, visible cleaners, authorities lock the doors or install floor-level plumbing, dressing up administrative failure as a modern design choice. This is the great illusion of modern governments, the habit of framing institutional retreat as progress. When a society begins to adapt downward, it reveals a deep loss of self-confidence. It signals that leadership no longer trusts its people to respect good things, nor does it trust itself to maintain them. It treats basic civil upkeep as an intolerable burden rather than a primary duty. Besides, here is the thing. I guarantee you, if old Ernie were alive today and saw what passes for acceptable workmanship, he would have a few choice words. He would look at the shoddy wiring in a modern, cheaply built house, the plastic fittings that crack within months, the temporary repairs that become permanent fixtures, and he would say, "Would you hang that on your mother's mantelpiece?" Because he knew, you see, he knew that the standard you accept is the standard you get. Besides, once you start accepting mediocrity, you are on a slippery slope to complete collapse. Consider the history of public engineering. In the 19th century, Victorian builders constructed underground sewer systems, grand public libraries, and municipal baths that looked like temples of civic pride. They built them to last for centuries because they believed in the future. They believed that a rising country deserved world-class public infrastructure, accessible to every working person. To look back at those achievements today and realise that modern administrative bodies struggle to keep a basic street clean or a set of public doors open is a sobering realisation. Our technological tools may have advanced, but our underlying civic ambition has shrunk like a cheap t-shirt in a hot wash. You know, I was walking through a town back in the UK quite a few years ago. I will not name names, but it rhymes with North London. And I saw this magnificent Victorian building, all ornate stonework and soaring arches. It was a public library once, a place where any working man could go and educate himself, improve his station, better his children's prospects. Now, it was a pound shop, and yet he choked on my tea. Civic pride is not something that can be manufactured by top-down slogans, political campaigns, or public relations exercises. It cannot be bought with a new branding strategy or a slogan printed on a poster. I have seen enough love where you live campaigns to last a lifetime, and what do they usually achieve? Jack all, that is what. Real civic pride is a living habit. It is a chain of shared responsibility that connects the worker who maintains a space, the authority that funds it, and the citizen who uses it. When any link in that chain snaps, the entire structure weakens. If the authority fails to fund and respect the basic maintenance of a city, the worker loses heart. When maintenance staff are treated as invisible or unimportant, their pride in their work vanishes. On top of that, when pride vanishes, care follows close behind. When the citizen sees a degraded, dirty amenity, they lose respect for the provider. Besides, when citizens stop respecting their shared environment, the concept of a community dissolves into a collection of isolated individuals who care only about their own front door. I think about old Ernie every time I see this happening. He was the type of man who took pride in every single job he did, whether it was wiring a grand mansion or fixing a plug in a council flat. He understood that the quality of his work reflected on him, on his trade, on his community. He knew that if he did a shoddy job, the next electrician who came along would have a harder time, and he would never ever let a man down like that. A society functions best when there is a sense of mutual consideration. The Koreans have a lovely word for it. It is the quiet awareness that your actions influence the person coming behind you. Leaving a public counter dry, picking up a stray piece of litter, holding a door, or ensuring a shared space is left exactly as you found it. These are not grand political acts. They are the basic currency of civilization. Without that currency, human interaction grows coarse. The threshold of what we tolerate shifts millimetre by millimetre until things that would have caused outrage 50 years ago are accepted with a quiet, resigned shrug. Social decline does not begin in parliamentary chambers or financial markets. It begins on the sidewalk. It begins in the quiet acceptance that things used to be better, but we can no longer expect them to be good. Reclaiming high standards starts with a simple refusal to accept managed decline as normal. It starts with remembering that cleanliness, order, functional public spaces and civic pride are not outdated luxuries from a bygone era. They are the essential marks of a competent, self-respecting society. When we demand that our institutions maintain what they build, when we respect the people who do the daily work of upkeep, and when we take personal pride in leaving our shared spaces better than we found them, we stop the slide. We prove that we still value the world we live in and that we have the courage to hold the line. Because in the end, the civilization is not judged merely by the wealth it generates or the technology it invents. It is judged by how carefully it looks after its common ground and whether it has the pride to keep its standards high for the generations yet to come. Now, all my ramblings come from what I have read and heard about cities like Cambridge adjusting public amenities to accommodate international usage patterns. It highlights a distinct divide in how destination management is approached. Should public infrastructure adapt downward to cater to varying tourist habits, or should host nations hold the line on their own baseline standards? The issue also reflects the ongoing debate across Europe regarding the type and impact of modern mass tourism, particularly from developing countries. The fundamental principle of travel and cultural respect. When you step into someone else's home, you adapt to their way of living. You do not expect them to change it for you. Historically, travel was understood as an exercise in observation, learning, and fitting in. Part of the experience of visiting a foreign country was navigating its distinct norms, whether that meant learning a few phrases of the language, following local etiquette, or using whatever plumbing standards the host nation provided. When institutions strip away that expectation, two things happen. First, the loss of cultural integrity. When a host nation systematically modifies its basic public spaces to cater to the habits of short-term visitors, it communicates a lack of confidence in its own heritage and standards. Second, there is a difference between hospitality and civility. Hospitality means being welcoming, providing clear guidance and offering clean, functional amenities to guests. It does not mean altering the basic civil baseline of a country because some visitors fail to respect or understand local hardware. Providing clear visual signage on how to use standard Western facilities is basic hospitality. Replacing the hardware itself becomes managing the space, because managing the space is deemed too difficult, crosses the line into administrative surrender. It is as if I went to a pub in Birmingham and was confused by the hand-pulled owl pumps and demanded they install electric taps instead. The pub landlord would laugh me out of the place, and quite right too. So where does this lead? It always comes back to education, because true education is about far more than just passing exams or acquiring technical skills. At its core, education is the process of teaching an individual how to live within the community. It is the difference between instruction and upbringing. Instruction teaches someone how a system works. Education instills the understanding of why respecting that system matters. In societies that successfully maintain high public standards, civic habits are taught long before a child reaches adulthood. When children are taught to clean their own classrooms, wipe down shared counters and take responsibility for their immediate environment, consideration for others becomes muscle memory. It stops being an external rule and becomes an internal habit. Education should teach individuals that public property is not nobody's property. It is everyone's property. When people view a public park, a train, or a washroom as shared home turf rather than a convenience managed by an anonymous government, their personal standard of care elevates immediately. Ignorance survives when bad habits go uncorrected, but genuine education sets a clear, non-negotiable bar. It teaches that adapting to your surroundings, showing basic respect for host cultures, and leaving a space better than you found it are the primary marks of a civilized person. When an educational or political system stops passing down those basic social habits, the results manifest everywhere in littered streets, broken amenities, and institutions that default to lowering their standards rather than raising human behavior. Without that foundational grounding in civic pride and consideration, the physical standards of a society will always slide backward, no matter how much money is spent or how many committees are formed to manage the decline. Here in Thailand, these three pillars are taught as they are across most of Southeast Asia, from South Korea to Japan. What's more, the Britain I grew up in the 1950s and 1960s had them. So what happened? I would tell you what happened. We got comfortable. We got lazy. We started believing that someone else would take care of it, that the government would sort it out, that it was not our problem. We stopped demanding excellence and started accepting mediocrity because it was easier, less fuss, less bother. We stopped asking ourselves, is this good enough to hang on my mother's mantelpiece? You know, I sometimes wonder what old Ernie would make of the world today. He would probably be horrified by the disposable culture, the throwaway electronics, the plastic fittings, the temporary repairs. However, I think he would also be sad that we have lost something essential, sad that we have forgotten that the quality of our work reflects the quality of our character. Nevertheless, here is the thing. The world does not become a better place by accident. It becomes better because people care enough to maintain it, improve it, and pass it on to the next generation in better shape than they found it. So next time you see a piece of litter on the street, pick it up. Next time you use a public facility, leave it cleaner than you found it. Next time you see a broken window, demand it be fixed. Not because you're a busybody or a killjoy, but because you understand that small things matter. Because if we do not hold the line, who will? The politicians, the civil servants, the tourism boards? I would not hold my breath. Besides, next time you are doing a job, whether it is electrical work, plumbing, writing an essay, or just stacking shelves in the shop, ask that one question. Is this good enough to hang above my mother's mantelpiece? If the answer is no, you do have more work to do. Simple as that. Now, I am going to go and have a cold beer and think about whether I should actually trim those hedges. Probably not. Some standards, I am afraid, are simply too high to maintain. Tell me in the comments, have you noticed managed decline in your own community? More importantly, did you ever have a mentor who taught you the value of doing things properly? I would love to hear your stories. Hit that like button if you agree with me, even if only a little bit. A grumpy old man needs all the validation he can get, you know. Until next time, keep your standards high and your sarcasm higher. Always remember, if it is not good enough for your mother's mantelpiece, it is not good enough at all. Bye-bye.